If you're new in town or just new to this whole podcast thing, you're tuning in to Lore by Night, the podcast that discusses all things vampiric with no fear of breaching the Masquerade. In this episode, I will decide and unveil which edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse is the best edition of this goth savage classic. We will look at its core book, a brief overview of the metaplot, and mechanical differences. Since 1992, fans of Werewolf the Apocalypse have been heavily debating which edition of Werewolf is the ultimate compilation of the material. Unfortunately for them, all their answers have been both subjectively and objectively incorrect. Objectively, because the best version of Werewolf the Apocalypse is the one that works best for your table. Simple, really. Well, apparently not, as you're not interested in clear-cut cop-out answers. No, you're here for the subjectively based opinion of your Lord and Saviour, which, as far as this video is concerned, is the objective truth, and if you don't like that, up your dosage of copium! As of the writing and recording of this goated script, we have a first, second, third, or revised edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse, as well as a chunky 20th anniversary edition of the Rage Simulator, which serves as the 4th edition of the game line. Each one develops and convolutes the metaplot until the time of judgment, the big ol' end of the world of darkness. But Lore, I hear you type, there's actually 5 editions of Werewolf the Apocalypse. 5th edition came out of the summer of 2023. And you're absolutely right, dear listener. Well fucking done. The first edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse was released sometime in 1992, where the game was at its most grounded within the fabrics of the real world, and the metamorphosis into a monster is at its most horrifying and lonely. The battle of ethics and morality, unconventional cultures, tensions between generations, and feelings of isolation, placing the focus on the individual guru, the life they've left behind, and the new society they're stepping into, making it a lot more intimate and personal when compared to other editions of Werewolf. As such, there is a great emphasis on personal horror, the loss of oneself to something darker, and the journey of understanding the setting's loosely woven lore. It highlights young werewolves eager to take on the world and its dangers, with a sense of youthful rebellion runs through the narrative, something that plenty of vampire fans should be familiar with already. In short, this is the era of the lone werewolf, striving to find purpose in an increasingly bleak world, where respect and personal deeds matter more than conspiracies of intertribal rivalries. On the topic of tribes, they, for the most part, work in harmony, focusing their energy on external threats. The 13 we know and love are all available from the get-go for players to sink their fans into, with their own gifts with hints of more that have been wiped out or other non-shipper werewolves that exist. The tribes are stereotypical representations of myths and pop culture and fight against the nebulous threat of the worm and their Black Spiral Dancer tribe. The worm was less defined as an antagonist here, placing most of it on humanity exploiting Gaia, something that 5th edition would attempt to do but miss the fucking point entirely. Mechanically, game balance is as mythical as the Bunyip tribe book. Gifts lean towards getting a certain job done rather than making the playing field equal among players. It is clear the warrior tribes would easily take up the more peaceful and or mystical ones, for example. Renown was a lot more complex in this edition too, with a distressing amount of numbers to tally up. Running across the Umbra, we head into the 2nd edition of the game. Released in 1994, we begin to see and feel the larger picture of what the world would become, the Guru Nation, and the more spiritual elements of the game. It's also where the punk stomps the hardest, as we feel the rage of the Guru, where it rips and tears at the worm in all of its forms. Secrecy becomes a central theme, as the enemy's influence often exceeds that of the Guru, making your kinfolk far more vulnerable targets than you. Institutions and humanity are decaying, culture is festering, and young Guru rise up against their elders. The only constant is the fragile bastion of Guru society. 2nd edition fully embraces its themes of violence and chaos. The wider world of darkness seeps into the narrative, revealing alliances, rivalries, and connections with other supernatural creatures. The Guru now have shaped the course of the world of darkness in its metaplot, and are more knowledgeable about the world beyond their own, with some as going as far as befriending them and mingling with them with mixed pack group dynamics. Yet no one is free from flaws, not even the legendary Guru, whose greatness is tainted by the sins of the past. feeding more into the young and old divide. Werewolves continue to conceal their true natures for the sake of self-preservation, but when faced with their enemies, they strike with unrelenting fury. Shadowy adversaries like Pentex and DNA step into the forefront, hinting at an even deeper and more secretive world beyond the other supernaturals. The Weaver and Wild get updates too, with the Weaver being introduced as a new and potentially deadly antagonist, and the Wild isn't a friend of the Guru either. The 13 tribes from before both double down and expand the stereotypes and molds from before, but the numbers of the tribes themselves expand as we learn more about the lost Bunyip, Croatan, and White Howlers, the tribe that would become the Black Spiral Dancers, who too are explored in tragic and riveting detail. Changing breeds also take the stage, with sourcebooks introducing lesser-known shapeshifters, crossing into the 3rd edition with some of the later changing breed books. Renown is reworked to the more familiar form Werewolf the Apocalypse players would come to recognise, but there isn't a lot of difference in the mechanics, though things are a bit more balanced than before just through the establishment of the larger world Werewolf the Apocalypse has made for itself. In the final month of 2000, the 3rd edition of Werewolf the Apocalypse arrives, which is where WTA is at its most recognisable form on the surface. When this game is described to people, this is the version that has now become the stereotypical Guru. The Apocalypse is here, and Gaia must be saved, or her death must be subverted for as long as possible, by fighting back the Worm and Weaver, who both dominate the landscape, killing the Wild too. If it all goes to plan, the Wild will recover, and some semblance of balance will be restored. How much time remains for them to settle their affairs before destiny declares their end? Revised Edition is the first time the game properly feels like it has gone global, with the titular Apocalypse sweeping across every fabric of Gaia, yet rarely being made known to the public as an apocalypse that is an actual threat to be taken seriously now. The Guru Nation is at its most splintered and fractured, making Revised feel incredibly hopeless and at times nihilistically paranoid. The Silverfang and Shadowlords fight for control of the Guru Nation, the Stargazers leave for the Beast Courts of Asia, and the nation bites and snaps harder than 5th and Legacy Edition fans on Reddit. Pentex and the Black Spiral Dancers grow even stronger, stripping of the sacred significance of renown amongst the nation, though it is very much there and it's still an integral part of the game, further feeding into the Elder and Clear divide. The stereotypes prevalent in the 2nd edition are broken in the 3rd edition, where tribes become more diverse and show less emphasis on racial or cultural mimicry. There's a more progressive attitude across much of the Guru Nation. For example, the Children of Gaia are seen as more than just overly passive, and the Geta Fenris are recognised for their complexity beyond as mere violent stereotypes. The Black Furies are more than just all-women feminist tribe, and the Red Talons don't collectively hate the human fucking race. Revisions are also made to the game's mechanics and feel more balanced than the old editions. Abilities have a more balanced distribution compared to the 2nd edition, where many published Guru had excessively powerful gifts and traits. This change promotes better game balance, particularly benefiting new Werewolf players, as their characters can now develop more power through experience, while more supporting characters remain less powerful. The combat mechanics have also been slightly altered in the 3rd edition. The previous need for a wits and awareness roll to determine initiative has been removed. Combat successes directly contribute to damage, and the botch mechanics have been revamped, occurring only when there are no successes at all. Guru can now step sideways across the gauntlet without needing a reflective surface, although having one does make the process easier. Denouncing your tribe and going Ronin is now considered an option too, as well as the Skin Dancers. Finally, there is the 4th and final installment of Werewolf the Apocalypse worth talking about in this episode, the dummy thick 20th anniversary edition that hit our shelves physical and digital on the 14th of May 2013. The 20th anniversary tome, like the other core books of its nature, is metaplot agnostic, blending the 3 previous editions, particularly revised with large chunks being copied and pasted, for better and for worse. The question that is run through all the editions of Werewolf the Apocalypse is, when will you rage? But in this modern era, it feels it tries to ask more, how will you rage? As technology becomes an increasing part of everyone's lives, the Guru Nation extends beyond just tales shared upon campfire at night. It encompasses social media communities, spontaneous gatherings, and groups of misfits uniting in a world of uncertainties, meaning there are many ways one can fight back against the Worm, old, new, and long thought to be dead. It also means that the Weaver feels like a greater threat than the worm at times. Sedentary lifestyles and the widespread internet cripples the wanderlust and appreciation of nature that dies on the vine. Newsworthy hotspots such as immigration, trafficking, the increasing divide between right and left, political scandal, and the culture war, carrying werewolves into boardrooms as often as they appear in the woods or at an entrant chemical plant. Some stay hidden and out of danger, while others take advantage of humanity's present choices, dabbling in the worms and weavers' many gifts to get ahead of the curve. Like Revised, stereotyping doubles down and is also less present in this edition. To focus on the latter, as the former needs a review for changing ways for that, werewolves come from diverse backgrounds and places around the globe. In many instances, Gru unite with other changing breeds to confront a common enemy. In many ways, W20 is a celebration of everything from the previous editions: the personal horror, the rapidly approaching horrifying apocalypse, diverse character backgrounds, and the world of rage available to the Guru. It is also here that the rules have debatably their most balanced, though that did involve changing fuck all from Revised Edition, though some of the abilities got scrapped and newer ones were added in as per 20th Anniversary Edition makeover. So having explained each edition for you for the last 10-ish minutes, which one is the best and where would the others go in relation to that? If we are looking at the core books alone, it would be from best to not so best, Revised, 20th Anniversary Edition, second and first. I'm sure that many of you have already left a comment about your favourite edition and why my takes are fucking wrong, and that's fine. Some of you may fucking agree with me, and that is also fucking fine. I will reiterate what I said at the beginning of the video though. The best version of any game is the one that you all enjoy playing with your friends at your table. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters, and no one should poo-poo on other people's parades for playing a version of the game you don't like. To be kept updated, follow the Law by Night VTM Instagram and Blue Sky pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, as you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.